You're firing up Hockey Ultimate Team in NHL 26 for the first time, and you're looking at how to start your team the best possible way, where to go, what modes to focus on, which cards to chase after. So here is a step-by-step guide to set yourself up immediately in Hockey Ultimate Team. Now, before opening Hockey Ultimate Team, make sure you have your favorite team selected. If you randomly just fired through this selection when you opened up the game for the first time, it is not going to be super impactful in game, but you are going to start out with your team's logo and jerseys, as well as one player from that squad. So just make sure that you've selected your favorite team. And if you make a mistake, just go to settings and then down to favorite team to reset that selection before you fire up Hockey Ultimate Team. All right, so once you have set up your team name with the abbreviation, it is time to open up our Captain's Pack. Now, one of the bigger changes to NHL 26, when you start your team, you do not get a random starter pack team with a bunch of low overalls. You are actually just given one selection of a captain to choose from. Now, I have a video going over exactly what captain I would recommend if you are looking to build the best team. But my personal recommendation would be, if you have a favorite team, pick the player from that division, because if you get 6 players in your lineup from the division captain that you chose, you will get a +5 ability point boost, which should be pretty impactful. Now, I do think that Mackenzie Weegar is the best option, but we'll go ahead and select him. The menu system looks quite different, but for the most part, it does operate the same when you are trying to navigate the mode. You can select whatever mode you want by holding down left trigger, but then you can access things like Discover, the sets, the auction house, the store, as well as your team by hitting right trigger in any of the modes. So go ahead and take a look at your team to see where you stand. And as you notice, you are met with a starter pack team of players that have starter overalls. For example, Mika Zibanejad. The starter pack version is obviously much worse than his base card. Everyone starts out with roughly the same team outside of the one player that they get from their favorite team selected. So for the San Jose Sharks, I've got Alexander Wenberg as my 78 overall option. This will be different for whatever team that you actually select in the favorite team section. Okay, now as you can see, we need help at every position possible, including goaltender. On defense, things are a mess outside of Mackenzie Weegar, and your 78 overall is going to lead you offensively. When it comes to like a philosophy of building your team and starting early on, the thing I would recommend is, especially for players that are not at the hyper end of online play, you're not in Division 1 usually every year in HUT, I would avoid ranked early on, because all you're going to go up against is players that just live for online play, which is completely okay. But for the majority of the player base, I would work on building your team so that when you do go into ranked, you're set up in the best possible way. All right, so since our team is a complete disaster, we need to get some cards in our lineup. So we're gonna head on over to HUT Moments. And once you go into HUT Moments, you want to select the Fresh Ice Moments. This is the first event. You want to go through and complete these 5 moments. It will get you 3,000 coins, as well as 277 overall untradeable player items that can go in your lineup. And lastly, a 79 overall Fresh Ice player. So these moments are going to be very easy to complete. The first one just has you making 5 passes with Morgan Riley. Once you have completed the objectives and you see it light up green on the right-hand side, all you have to do is hit start, go to the pause menu, and you can exit and claim rewards. You don't have to wait for the next stoppage, so just immediately claim them and move on to the next one. Now, the third moment has you player locked as Logan Thompson, and you need to win the game. It is going to be very easy, but if you don't like playing goaltender or you struggle with it, there is a way around that. Now, if you ever get a moment where you are position locked, like having to use a goaltender and you really don't want to, or you just find it too difficult, when you're on this screen specifically, if you click in the L3 button, it'll bring up the position that you will position lock to, but you can just hit square and clear the position lock. And then once you've done that, all you need to do is ready up. And then as you can see, the Logan Thompson moment where you're stuck as Logan Thompson, you no longer need to play as him. You can just play as you would normally. Again, I would recommend trying some of the position lock ones. It's actually kind of fun, especially the goaltender ones, but you can just clear the position lock and then you're all set to go. So the final moment will just be scoring a goal with the Fresh Ice Matthew Tkachuk. It will be on All-Star, so this one might be a little bit difficult for some players, but once you've got your 1 goal, that will complete the moment, and now you're all set. You've finished the moment list. So once you've completed the Fresh Ice moments, it's time to go collect the rewards. So we head on over to our unopened packs, and we'll open up our 77 and above player items. Again, these are big to get because 77 overalls is the barrier for entry to the Fresh Ice event, and I'll show you what I mean by that once we've opened up the rest of our packs. Now, the 79 overall Fresh Ice pack is important because you can throw that player in your lineup and start working towards Fresh Ice objectives. On top of that, Frank Nazar is actually a really good pull because if you went with Teemu Solani as your icon and Jeremy Roenick as your hero selection, you can get the +2 overall boost by playing them all on a line. So once we have those immediate rewards, I want to highlight the event sets. So in the Fresh Ice events, to make any of the Master Set player items, it is going to require 3 81 to 83 overall Fresh Ice player items. You'll also need 2 additional 81 to 83 overall players, but this could be from any release. Now, to get those items, you will have to do this set, which is 81 overall Fresh Ice sets. And again, you'll see in here, you need 379 to 80 overall Fresh Ice players. So 3 of these will equal 181. However, the barrier for entry, or the lowest overall that is going to be required to get you into the event, is always important to highlight because these cards are going to have higher value. So, to make a 79 overall Fresh Ice player, you will need to trade in 3 77 to 78 overall items. And as you can see, we were able to get 2 just from those moments, so we're well on our way. I would not recommend doing this set immediately, and I would always try to use untradeable items for these sets before using tradable. Now, that Frank Nazar is going to be key to making a Master Set player item because he can be traded into the 81 overall set, but we're not going to do that yet or worry about it. We actually need him to go into our lineup. So back on our lineup screen, we are going to throw our new cards into our lineup. So Frank Nazar is going to join the squad, as is Daniel Wagger. Don't worry too much about the line combos and chemistries early on in this stage. I have some videos going over the best way to utilize this, but when you're just first starting out, don't worry about it too much. Just focus on getting some upgrades to your team. So after those Fresh Ice moments, we've got 3 players that we can add to our lineup. All right, now let's touch on objectives. These are going to be a big focus early on in the game. On any of the menu screens, if you hit right trigger, it will pull up the objectives in-game. Now, you've got the daily objectives. These can be done in-game, very easy to obtain usually, and it will give you a little boost in XP. You'll also get a daily objective pack. Again, this is going to be done almost passively anytime that you play the game. But what I want to bring your attention is in the XP season objectives, notice by doing those 5 moments, we've already completed the Hut Moments Week 1 objectives for the XP path. And because of that, you can see we're already into tier 8 of the XP path, giving us more cards that we can add to our collection. Now, during early access, it does give you an 81 overall alumni player at tier 8, which is actually pretty important because if you head on over to the icon sets, you'll see that if you wanted to make a icon, it will require 5 83 to 85 overall alumni player items, which is very expensive, especially early on in the game. Now, the first set in these sets is the 83 overall alumni player set, which allows you to create those cards needed to make the icons. And getting an 81 overall alumni item will allow us to get closer to making the first 83 alumni player that we'll need to make more icons. So we'll rip the pack, and we've got the 81 overall Derek Roy. And again, when it comes to the players that we have on our team, this is easily one of the best ones already. Beggars can't be choosers, so this is another card you can add to your lineup. Now back into the objective path. Anytime that there is an XP season objective path, this is going to be very important to focus on. Because for completing each one of these objectives, you are going to get 8,000 Hut XP towards that XP path. And by completing all 4, you'll get an additional 13,000, which means in total, you're getting 45,000 XP just from completing these objectives. And if you head back over to the XP path, we got 22,000 just from completing 5 moments. The tier 15 reward for completing the path is 78,000. So we've almost already hit that just by completing that objective path in itself. And if you do it during the early access, you'll get an 83 overall alumni player, which again is important because that will allow you to get one step closer to making an icon. The other thing to note when it comes to objectives, anytime it says any mode, that includes moments, which is going to be important in just a little bit. The next objective list I want to talk about is training camp. Again, this is all very simple. As you can see here, we almost completed it by just doing those Hut moments. Now let's touch on the Fresh Ice objectives. This is for the first event of the year. These are going to be things that will help us acquire the Master Set player items from the Fresh Ice event. Now, these objective lists from events are usually going to be done with cards from that specific event, so you will need Fresh Ice player items. Now, again, notice that we completed a few of these like make passes with any Fresh Ice player item, because it's noted as any mode. You can do that in moments. However, there will be 3 that require you to play either Ranked, Hut Champs, or Cup Chase, and you'll need to get shots, as well as assists and goals with Fresh Ice player items. So our next goal is to get as many Fresh Ice player items as we can to add to our lineup so that we can complete this in the fastest way possible. And it just so happens that if we complete 5 sets, we'll get an 82 overall Fresh Ice Mikhail Granlund. And again, at this stage of the game, this card is going to make almost everyone's lineup, and it will work with that Frank Nazar that we just got to help bang out those objectives a little bit faster. So next up, we need to head back into Hut Moments. What I would recommend is, again, to go through the training camp moments. They're not going to give you a ton of rewards, but what they will allow you to do is work towards any of the objectives that basically have you working in any mode. But as you go along, you're going to end up with a couple packs, and by completing the final moment, you'll get a main camp pack. Again, just adding some cards to your collection that you can put into your lineup is going to be important early on, and these moments will not take you very long at all. It is essentially the tutorial in-game. Now, the next 4 sets of moments are all division-based. You've got Pacific, Central, Metropolitan, and Atlantic. And in these moments, you've got 8 moments to complete, 1 for each team. The first 3 are going to be just for 100 coins, but the 4th one is going to be for a Hut Moments collectible. If you keep going down, you will also get a second Hut Moments collectible, and there are 2 for each division, which is important because if you head on over to sets again, the final Hut Moments NHL Circuit sets, this is where you're going to use those collectibles specifically. Now, you will have 8 in total, so here is what I recommend. You can use all 8 in the 75 and above overall player. It will be untradeable, so you won't be able to sell it on the auction house. But you've got a few other options like this 82 overall player. This will be account bound. Anytime it says BND, it means that you can't sell it and you can't use it in sets. It's essentially only able to be used in your lineup. I would never recommend making any of the cards that are account bound unless you are looking for one specific player. We've got another option of an untradeable 80 overall player item with 6 collectibles. And then you've got a 78 overall player item for 6 as well. This will be tradable, so you could sell it on the auction house if you want. And then lastly, for 2, we've got an 80 overall player that is account bound. What I would recommend is to use 6 of those moments collectibles on the 78 overall player item. And the reason for that, again, is in the Fresh Ice event, the barrier for entry to make these cards is 77 to 78 overall players. So that will guarantee that you are going to get a player item that can go into this set to start working towards a master set player item, which should be your focus. Now, your final 2 moment collectibles, just throw it into this 80 overall BND set. I know I mentioned don't ever do the BND set, but we're just looking to complete sets in general, and this card can go to your team. And since you will have 2 Hut Moments collectibles left over, you might as well just do this to get rid of it. And once those moments are done, you should be pretty close to completing the 5 sets to get the Mikhail Granlund. Now, if you're still short on completing sets, head on over to the exchange sets. In these player exchanges, anything that is 76 and below can go into these sets. The barrier for entry is 77 overall items. So if you head on over here, you can trade in 74 to 75 overall player items. Again, unless they come out with something specific for those cards, they are essentially useless other than going into your lineup. So I would trade in any card that can fit into these 2 sets, the 74 and above, as well as the 70 and above. So if you get any 70 to 73 overall player items, throw them into this set, and that will finish it off and get you Mikhail Granlund. Now, as you're going through and finishing these objectives, you are going to get Fresh Ice collectibles. I want to touch on what to do with those. So in the Fresh Ice sets, the very first option is the Fresh Ice collectible sets. Once you head in here, you'll have 4 options. You've got a 75 and above overall player item for 5 Fresh Ice collectibles. Again, if you get a 75 or 76 player item, that is a pretty big waste. For 15, you will get an account-bound 77 and above overall player item. Hard avoid on this set. And then you've got the 81 overall Fresh Ice set. This is where you want to put your collectibles. So you will need 30 of them, but you will get an 81 overall Fresh Ice player, which are the cards that you're chasing after. Again, to make a master set player item, you are going to need 3 of them. So anytime you get collectibles, you want to throw it into that set. And then for 1 collectible, you will get a 75 overall player item. This is untradeable. Now, it's kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see where that's going to go, because technically, if you go over to the exchange sets back into player exchanges, if you were to get 4 for 4 collectibles, you could do this set and take your shot on getting a 77 overall player pack. But if you got a 76, it would be a pretty big waste. All right, so once we've completed our moments, next up, we've got Wildcard. Now, Wildcard is a great mode to start out Hockey Ultimate Team because you don't need to bring in your own team. So once you're into Wildcard, if you hit triangle, you can draft and edit your lineup. You just have to be sure you're under the salary cap. But once you have your team, it's time to work towards the Wildcard reward path. But more importantly, you'll get 22 Fresh Ice collectibles for completing the entire wildcard path, which again is important because you need 30 of these Fresh Ice collectibles to make an 81 overall player item. So that right there will get you 22 out of 30. Combining that with the Fresh Ice collectibles from the objective list, and you're going to be well on your way. Now, when it comes to what you should play, regardless if you are a pure offline player, I would always recommend online. And the reason for that is because even if you lose, you will get half of the total points you can earn from a win. Online, you will get 1,000 points towards the wildcard path if you are to win the game, but if you lose, you still get 500. Why that's important is because if you play offline, as you can see, depending on the difficulty you choose, Superstar is quite hard for a majority of the player base, and even if you win, you're only getting 600. That's only 100 more than a loss from online play. But if you don't want to play online, I totally understand. Play on the difficulty that you're able to and that you're enjoying, and slowly work towards completing the wildcard path. Now, on top of the wildcard path and getting all of the collectibles from the rewards, if you head on over to the store, this is very important, especially for no money spent players, but anyone, you need to be taking advantage of this every day. If you head on over to the store and choose whatever event is currently out, there should be a daily event pack. You need to be opening this every single day if you are looking to make the content from this event. So, this is completely free, it does not cost any coins, and it's going to give you 1 random item, but more importantly, 5 Fresh Ice collectibles, which essentially means that if you logged in for all 7 days, you would be able to get 35 Fresh Ice collectibles. But even if you missed one, which means that if you logged in every day, you'll be able to get 30 event collectibles just from doing the daily packs. That's it. Very important. So make sure that you open up this pack. Now, once you're done wildcard, it's time to put your team together from all the packs that you've opened and head on over to Cup Chase. Now, Cup Chase is essentially replacing squad battles this year. It is going to have you play an 18-game regular season, followed by 2 rounds of best-of-3 playoffs, with the goal of winning the cup. Now, the important part to remember here is that you have 3 rewards that you can earn from Cup Chase. 1, for making the playoffs, you will get a postseason pack. If you are to win Cup Chase, you will get a Hut Cup pack. And if you go undefeated, you will get a undefeated pack. This is very important to remember because if you are a top-end player or you want to try and just get the best rewards possible, Superstar is pretty difficult regardless of your skill level because for a lot of players, your team is pretty abysmal. So something to just keep in mind. So what I would recommend is choose a difficulty that you know in the past you've been able to handle. Again, it is going to be very difficult on Superstar, and the main focus should be going undefeated. But if you don't and you lose later in the season, that's fine as well. Keep going to finish it off. But just keep that in mind. Now, while you are playing Cup Chase, it is important to note, try and finish out any random objectives that you still have available to you. So, for example, like taking shots with a captain player or scoring goals with a captain player. Just head on over to the objective screen after every few games and make sure that you are working towards them. Now, finally, you have the Cup Chase objectives. This is your main focus while playing Cup Chase. And again, you're going to be able to complete this by essentially just playing 1 Cup Chase run because you need to score 10 goals with any player, play 5 games, 10 games, 15 games, and then finally 20 games, so essentially playing the entire thing. You want to complete all of these because it is going to give you 35 Cup Chase collectibles. Now, with those collectibles, what you do is you head on over to sets, go to Cup Chase sets, and you've got some options here and different pack choices you can make. What I'd recommend is to just hold on to them and wait until everyone has figured out what is the best pack and what's actually in these packs. It doesn't actually say, which is kind of frustrating, but the final one that you could choose is the Gold Choice Players Pack for 35. If you want to go ahead and use all your collectibles on this, no matter what, it's going to be the best pack you can do. But again, it is a risk risk and a gamble because it's packs, so just something to keep in mind. After your first cup chase run, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want. If you're an offline player, you can just do cup chase again, maybe on a harder difficulty. If you're an online player, your team should be good enough compared to the rest of the player base that you can head on into ranked and start working towards the ranks and rewards. So the new ranked system has you earning rewards immediately for getting wins. So every time you win, you will move up a rank, which will then allow you to get the next tier of rewards as you work along here. Again, the top end players are going to burn through this. If you are not a great online player, you can go at your own pace. But that's why I would recommend for everyone to go the route of building your team first before heading into ranked, especially early on, because all of the hardcore players are going to take their awful team and just go in here to begin with. So you're going to be matching up with great players with your brutal team. Now we need to talk about the cards that you're chasing. At launch, there are no year-long chase cards. There is no upgradable cards that you can get, like power-up icons, that you can work towards to upgrade all year long. It looks to be a pure event format. However, on top of the master set player items from the events that you can actually work towards and earn, the heroes and icons are essentially replacing team builders and power-up icons. So every season, you are going to see a big refresh of icons, as well as heroes that will drop when the new season drops. And they're going to be higher overalls that we can work towards and build. So think of it like more live content, and then you have an entire season to build the new high-end cards that they release every season. Now, we don't know how long each season will be, but the early access XP path will last for 7 days, and then on September 12th, when the game launches for the worldwide release, that's when we're going to find out how long each season is. I would anticipate 35 to 40 days. I don't think it would be much longer than that, but we'll have to wait and see. When it comes to the cards in your collection, if you are playing during early access, I would hold on to every single card. The reason for that is once the game releases worldwide, the market shifts entirely, and you don't want to be put in a spot where you've sold a lot of cards early on because you just wanted as quick amount of coins as possible, and you ended up losing a lot of value, especially when selling cards. So I hope this helps get your team set up in the best possible way. As always, if you're looking for the most up-to-date news, tips, and info for Hockey Ultimate Team, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.